Hey everyone, welcome to Crank It Up Podcast, the YouTube home of bringing games. I'm Jim Price, and today I want to tell you about the objectives in Erudia. Erudia is a two-player area control game where every battlefield can be captured through having the majority of a combined power threshold, its resistance. But power isn't everything. I was deeply inspired by tactics games that had alternate forms of winning that extended beyond just killing all enemies, ones where you could pivot or change your focus. And I wanted to reflect this in battlefields to give more interesting decisions where how you win is just as important as that you win. Objectives were the answer to that, and Erudia has multiple of them. Each objective is tied to a different terrain type, where the terrain indicates how an objective should be interpreted. In the core set alone, there are 5 unique objectives, with at least 5 others that you'll see eventually. And those are just terrain-based objectives, as objectives in general will be used in surprising ways as the game evolves towards its predetermined destiny. Today I'll be going over the core set objective types, how they work, and special considerations for achieving them. Of course, I'm biased as the developer, but this is one of my favorite parts about the game, and I get excited when they occur. That being said, objectives are never meant to occur 100% of the time, and each objective has its own ideal range that I want the terrain to satisfy. Some will occur far more frequently than others, and this is by design. What's important is that an objective is a realistic option, not a foregone conclusion. Also, for easy reference, it's important to remember that all settlements have one-word names, while environments have 2 words in their name. So to see if something is an environment, check first for the word count, then check for the presence of the objective marker, as there are some environments that do not have objectives. The first objective type is the bridge objective, which I describe as a tug-of-war. The bridge objective uses a single marker, which begins on the neutral space. During the capture phase escalation event, the marker moves towards the active player if and only if the active player has more power than their rival. Note that it does not move away from you on your turn if you are losing there, only if the active player is winning. When the objective marker reaches the stated goal, like 3 for Laminia Lake, the battlefield has been captured regardless of power. I love bridges because you can get them for nothing. You have to make a choice as to whether or not to ignore them, because they offer less VP, but they could also be easy VP. For having very small VP, these battlefields draw a ton of attention, having some of the highest capture rates, which is the percentage of time the battlefield gets captured based on its appearances. Despite the easy objective, these battlefields often get captured by power because it's so easy to power creep on them. You can still compete normally, and it's hard to add just enough power to get the lead and be able to maintain it while avoiding giving the battlefield away entirely. As a result, sometimes it isn't best to give yourself strength, it's better to give your rival weakness. It's the same power differential, but it moves the power total away from the resistance, giving you more time. However, this also becomes harder to capture the battlefield normally since you are further away, but that's just one of the many decisions that make bridges so worthwhile. Defeating units and antagonistic movement also have a profound effect and give extra incentive to those strategies. In total, we've seen bridges trigger their objectives around 42% of the time, and my personal favorite class with bridges is a class that's actually coming in the first expansion, and when you see some of their cards, it will be easy to see why. The next most frequent objective is caves. Caves specify a number of turns that they will be in play. For example, if Crystal Caves is out at the start of the game, it will get captured by turn 9. On turn 9, regardless of the power, that battlefield will be off the board. It's just a simple countdown. Now let's address the elephant in the room. It's easy to think that caves benefit the player with the last play on them, but that is empirically wrong. First and foremost, we track these things through the winning player percentage. What percentage of the time did the winning player of that battlefield win the game? That would be 63% for Crystal Caverns, but you can't look at the number by itself. This is a game where winning battlefields wins games, so it's not going to be 50%. You need to see, is it dominant? And it's not. And it's also ranked number 10 out of 20, right in the middle. So why is this? In actuality, it only gives you an advantage if you allow it to. As the last turn player's rival, there is nothing stopping you from throwing out the resistance midpoint and saying, "Come at me." You do lose the opportunity for temporary power, but especially if you have ambushes up your sleeve, you may be forcing someone to play at that battlefield for second place, taking their focus elsewhere. They have to decide whether that 1 point is worth it, knowing you will get an efficient 3VP. So why the midpoint? Because if they could overtake the midpoint, they can capture it normally, and then it's not about the timer. Caves vary drastically in their objective rate, but on average, they occur 39% of the time. What I really like about caves is that they are designed to take away the power of long-term value cards by forcing you to consider playing on a short-lived battlefield. Too often the temptation is to play the best engine card on the least desirable battlefield so that it is around for a long time, but caves offer you a reason to consider otherwise. Because these two caves are very different, it's hard to name a personal class favorite, but fighters stand out since it's easy to kill off low-hanging fruit, especially on ambush. The third most frequent objective is the forest, which I personally love because they give me such a feeling of accomplishment. The forest objective is a double score. If another battlefield gets captured, you can capture a second battlefield at a significant discount, one where only power matters. Resistance and battlefield damage don't matter, just power. Forests may have an unfavorable ratio in VP, but if you can solo them, that's a very efficient 3VP. Even if you both end up getting VP, it's still efficient and unexpected and can completely disrupt what someone is trying to do. Forests tend to favor those with ambush abilities or movement as they spread out. Something you may not consider is that Tears of Undine can be played globally, setting up a surprise forest play that is unexpected. It's also common to trigger forests off of caves and bridges. All in all, forests trigger 36% on average. My personal forest class is the Cavalry because Last Stand and Arion can create forests out of nowhere. The fourth most frequent objective is the Plains objective, where defeating a set number of units captures the battlefield. A Plains objective will be triggered when either player defeats the appropriate number of units, but they don't end up combining their totals, so it's strictly about has one player defeated the required number of units. The Plains objective is really important because defeating units normally slows the game down. Instead, it actually speeds it up. As a result, Plains tend to have a high solo percentage, not just from the objective itself, but fear of the objective. With the core set Plains, both planes have a solo percentage of about 47%, but Peddler's Path does this with a much higher objective rate than Croatoan Farm. What this tells us is that Croatoan Farm, because of its punishing reaction, disincentivizes players from playing there, but players have no problem soloing it with a big play. This means that if you didn't fear the objective, you could get 2 points as the rival, but this also means potentially helping with the objective, making you question just how much those 2 points are worth it to you. What's interesting about Plains is that everyone has access to damage, but some more than others, so getting careless will accelerate the objective. Of course, the battlefield abilities are designed to tie into the objective, so the objectives always feel in play. Despite this, the overall objective completion rate is 19%, which I'd like to be a little higher. My personal Plains class is the Wizards because they could push you onto them and damage you all in the same turn. That means that mountain objectives are last, coming in at an average of 14%. Mountain objectives trigger after the set number of units are on the battlefield, regardless of their controller. I think that mountain objectives are a lot more achievable than players realize, and not just when swarm classes are involved. If you assume an average minion power of 3 with no enhancements, Destiny's Summit would get captured at a 5 resistance discount, with Scavenger Peak being larger. I personally love using mounted objectives when I need to waste units with rival movement, especially when they are already winning, because I can get 3VP for nothing. I've definitely seen occasions when the objective is achievable but players chose not to proceed with it. This may be because when unit quantity is involved, victory margins are much slimmer, but a carefully planned mounted objective can be really satisfying when Swarm isn't involved. For a low-key class that can disrupt a mountain quickly, consider the Clerics, who have the extra plays for multiple actions, and Declan, and it's easy for them to play 4 units in a turn, and they have the means to get them all back. Terrains play a very big role in Erudia. They offer alternatives to capturing a battlefield, and match their abilities to their VP spreads. As the game evolves, you will see more terrains that increase the variability of the game, and I'm excited for you to try the others. What's your favorite objective in the core set? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.